All right, hey there, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jason Smith with an update on what's happening with our forecast, not just now, but really what's going to happen down the road. We've had a couple of dry air fronts coming through so far this late summer. You know, we had a little dry air push in late August and had another one that just finished up. It's starting to get a little bit more humid as we head into your weekend, but next week it looks like more dry air coming down, and then we'll even look a little bit beyond that with the long-range pattern here on this edition of Next Weather, and going a little bit deeper than what we would normally talk about on television as far as the potential of some of that drier air. So let's first bring up the outlook here for temperatures between September the 10th and September the 14th, and that's going to be a little bit above normal right in through there, but we're kind of right on the edge of the normal line, and you can see it is going to trend a little cooler over to the Carolinas and into looks like the middle Atlantic states, and even over across the central panhandle will be a little bit cooler than normal. As far as rainfall, it looks like we will be drier than usual as we head into the 10th through the 14th, but the real dry spell will be brewing for places like the Mid-South and up into the Tennessee Valley. We may not see much rain at all. So let's start with an upper air chart, always a good plan when you're looking at long-range trends. And what we're seeing as we get into the weekend and the first of next week is that if you look at this line that's kind of sagging down here, right down, I'm going to highlight it for you here, from St. Louis to Nashville to Mobile, there is a dip in the jet stream. It's not super strong, but it is enough to get a weak dry air front into our area. There is a deeper trough in the western United States, and then a little ridge up here into the mountain states, and then back down we go. So anytime we have a trough, that brings the drier air in and often brings some cooler air in, and we're going to see a little bit of that in our forecast. So that's something that is promising. And looking at the predicted dew points, I know it's kind of a strange term. It's not something that people really talk about much because we normally think about moisture in the terms of humidity, but the humidity is relative to the temperature, and so it's kind of not a really good gauge to see how dry it is if you just talk about relative humidity. You really have to look at the dew points, and when they start to get in the 60s, it is noticeably drier. When they start getting in the 50s, it feels fantastic. And look at the predicted dew point for Monday of next week at 52. And then taking the dew points through the remainder of the week, they may bubble back up into the 60s, and then it looks like more dry air potentially in place late next week on Thursday. And the dry air really plays a big role. I mean, you have dry air, you have longer nights this time of the year, and we'll see better cooling. So we're going to have overnight lows in the lower to middle 60s over the area. We're also going to have lower humidity in the afternoon, so the heat index is not going to be as significant of a number. All right, so checking our muggy meter here, just to give you an idea of what we would normally equate this to. You can see Monday at 60, definitely very pleasant. It does show a little uptick in the dew points for Tuesday, but again, they may drop later next week. So a couple of rounds of drier air should be on the way. And here's what this will do with our overnight lows. We are predicting middle 60s, even some upper 60s at times next week, so this will be a little temperature correction. In the near term, it's actually going to be pretty hot Friday and Saturday, but it looks like next week we start to see some better weather. And if we look long range, what are we seeing for the middle of the month of September? Well, these are the new Climate Prediction Center outlooks, and they are issued typically on Thursdays. So what this one is showing us here is that we're going to be a little bit above normal by the middle of the month. It may not be a permanent fix to have the drier air in here and the cooler nights. And then as far as rainfall goes, you know, we're still going to be a little bit more on the dry end of things. I think by the middle of the month with the hotter temperatures, we'll be near normal. We'll probably get some pop-up showers and thunderstorms, but there's nothing in there that says we got a big rain system coming anytime in the next 7 days. Most of the moisture looks like it really wants to be to our east over the Florida Peninsula. So that's what we have going on with your extended forecast, long range, kind of looking out towards the middle of the month. We're still very much in the tropical season. We're going to be watching that as well. and we'll be keeping an eye on these fronts and these temperatures on Fox 10 News. But just want to give you a little insight on what we're seeing. Bottom line is it will be drier and more comfortable next week. And then the long range trending back a little warmer, and maybe a few scattered showers coming back in by the middle of the month as we look at some of these preliminary outlooks. It's always cool to see what's happening in the long range. And, we're getting into the time of year where we're starting to see some fronts. Normally our first good fall front comes after the 20th of September, but we've had a couple of dry air pushes a little prematurely this year, and I don't think anybody's complaining. Thanks for joining us for Next Weather.